May 6th, 2008. It was my 9th birthday. Mario Kart Wii had released a month prior, and I wanted nothing more than to race with my favorite Mario characters I had grown to love. I had asked my parents for Mario Kart Wii, even pointing it out every time we saw it in our local shops. After blowing out my candles and enjoying a sickeningly sweet cake from the local market basket, I was handed a delicately wrapped box. While the contents of the box were a mystery, its dimensions were unmistakable. My heart was racing faster than Funky Kong on the Flame Runner, and I hastily tore off the wrapping paper only to be greeted by a different kart racer. This was my first introduction to Data Design Interactive. I actually cried. Data Design Interactive is by far one of the most infamous game developers in history. Originally founded in 1983 in Stonebridge, UK, Data Design began developing games for the ZX Spectrum and Commodore 64. However, it wasn't until 2007 when the success of the Wii pushed them to form Popcorn Arcade, a subsidiary focused on Wii development. And by focused on Wii development, I mean they just kept pumping out garbage. But it gets worse. Not only did they keep pumping out trash, but a lot of their games were blatant reskins of one another. They also ported some of their PS2 games and added motion controls that made them significantly worse. But this worked! Somehow. In 2008, they held 40% of the Wii budget game market share in the EU, which is unfortunate. Due to their success, they had also opened a US office in Sarasota, Florida. But hey, they're gone now, right? Wait a minute. Carnival Games LLC. It will all be ready soon. What? Games are in our blood, all types, all genres, all systems. We have over 100 titles published, so hopefully we have learned to think or two about what works. Looking forward to our new titles being launched and excited to be working on the new Nintendo Switch format. Now, wait a minute. This can't be them. There's Sarasota, Florida. Guys. So, here's how Worst of the Wii is gonna work. Each episode will have a theme and multiple games covered. And at the end of each episode, I will add each of these games to a tier list to once and for all determine which game is truly the worst of the Wii. And I thought there would be no better way than to start this series than playing some data design games. So I've picked out 4 data design classics, each representing a different genre. You like Mario 64? Well, you'll hate Ninjabread Man. You like Mario Kart? Well, you'll despise Mythmaker's Super Kart GP. You like Super Monkey Ball? Well, Mythmaker's Orbs of Doom definitely won't scratch that Monkey Ball 1 and 2 itch. You like Superman 64? Well, Billy the Wizard might actually be right up your alley. Anyway, let's start this train wreck with Ninjabread Man. Now, Ninjabread Man is widely regarded as one of, if not the worst game on the Wii. But here's the thing. This is the best game I played for this video. Now, that's not to say it's good because it's still pretty garbage, but seriously, wait until we get to Mythmaker Super Kart GP. Like, I can't that game is borderline unplayable. It's garbage. Ninjabread Man is the most bare-bones 3D platformer I have ever played. Like, when you boot up the game, there's no music. So the first level is the training dojo. Okay, that's pretty good. Does it make up for the rest of the game though? No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. So here we are, and right out of the gate, there are problems. When you move, Ninjabread Man starts walking slow for like a fraction of a second, and then he just hauls ass. It's like 0 to 10 to 100 miles per hour. Other than that though, Ninjabread Man surprisingly isn't that hard to maneuver. I mean, like, jumping is weird because they try to get you to shake the nunchuck to jump, although you can just press Z, but the game never tells you this. Also, Ninjabread Man has multiple senseis apparently. Like there's just two of them. Like, it's supposed to be one character, but you can see him twice in the same shot. Like, come on. So the next part of the tutorial is the swordplay, and oh my god, guys, it's more unresponsive than Best Buy's customer service. Just let me return my faulty Joy-Con, you cowards. Actually, the swordplay is as unresponsive as my faulty Joy-Con. That's why it's faulty. Every time you see the sword swing in this video, which probably won't be much, just assume I flicked the Wii remote at least 3 times. Like, it's seriously that bad. But luckily you also have a projectile, and the game just straight up goes out of its way to reward you for not using the sword. Killing enemies with the projectile fills up a meter on the bottom left, which increases the power of the projectile every time you kill an enemy. Enemies start off taking around like 3 hits to kill, but by the time the meter is filled, 1 hit and they're dead. Oh yeah. Ninjabread Man does an awful job telling you how to use the projectile though. They make it seem like you point at the screen and press the B button, but you actually need to hold B when the reticle locks onto an enemy. And the reticle freaks out half the time. But hey, it's far more reliable than the sword. So with the tutorial out of the way, we have completed 1/4 of the game. The next 3 levels are basically all the same. For whatever reason, there's this futuristic portal, and Ninjabread Man needs to collect 8 canisters to unlock the portal? Okay. This portal is definitely just some pre-made asset because it clashes so hard with the candy aesthetic of the rest of the game. It's just so lazy. There's no story, there's no bosses, there's like 4 enemies. Each level you just grab 8 canisters and then you win. And oh my god, the music. The music is the most generic, stock-ass music I've ever heard. Just take a listen real quick. It's not even an entertaining, glitchy mess like Super Kart GP. But we'll get to that. We'll get to Super Kart. Don't worry. The level design is dreadfully uninspired. Lollipop Forest. Just a bunch of rooms with platforms. Candy Cliffs. You start out in a big open area with nothing in it. There's some lava and spikes. There's this one part where you walk up a winding path and I tried to grab a canister and completely missed, so I needed to walk up the long path again. There's this landmine on a cookie platform that you actually cannot avoid without being hit. You can't hit it with your projectile and the hitbox comes out before the animation plays. There's also this weird instance of like anti-draw distance with the background. Like, I don't get it. Like, you look at it and it disappears, and then you look away and it's there? Like, why? There's also one of those invisible path things where you need to follow the pattern under the floor. That was kinda alright. Cookie Caves. Basically the same thing. All of the levels blend together and have no unique identity or sense of design. The entire game, I just camped out enemies and then raced in to grab the extra hearts before they flew away in like 3 seconds. It's painfully boring. But wait, when doing research for this video, I learned that Ninjabread Man apparently began production as a modern reimagining of the Zool series. But the shareholders that owned Zool were so unimpressed by data design that they backed out. And then data design just reused the assets that they had made and made Ninjabread Man. That would also explain the random bee enemies. Anyway, just gets worse from here on out, so strap in. Billy the Wizard caused me physical pain. No, really. My wrist was sore after playing it for an hour. Also, the main menu music is missing, just like Ninjabread Man. At least they're consistent. So, first off, the title Billy the Wizard Rocket Broomstick Racing doesn't really describe what the game is. There are 4 different types of levels: racing levels, collecting levels, dragon boss battle levels, and, of course, tutorial levels. So, racing only really accounts for 1/4 of the game. Also, why does the broom have a control panel? Isn't the whole point of wizards like magic? Why does the broom need buttons? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Anyway, the tutorial is pretty standard, except that I had no idea what was happening when the game started. Since the game relies on motion controls and it's on the Wii, I was trying to move the broom with the Wii remote. You know, like most Wii games. However, you steer the broom with the nunchuck. Yeah, I kinda get what they were going for, I think. The player character is holding the broom with their left hand and the wand in their right, so I guess they wanted to mimic that? But oh my god, it was an awful decision because the nunchuck does not have the kind of precision needed for this game. Trying to control the broom is an absolute nightmare, especially going at high speeds. At times it feels like the motion controls aren't omnidirectional and you're playing on like a 3D grid. Also, if you aren't moving, you slowly lose altitude. Like, why? Why can't you just float there? Why do you need to sink? Like, I don't even think that was intentional. I just think they just didn't fix it, because that just doesn't seem right. Also, guys, the music, it's the same as Ninjabread Man. It's back. I need to change it. There's no way we're listening to this again. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Much better. So it took me a while to realize this, but you're actually not supposed to hold down the Z button to accelerate. Instead, every time you click it, you go a little faster. And every time you click the C button, you go a little slower. It's bizarre, and the game does a very poor job explaining this. So yeah, just like Ninjabread Man, once the tutorial is finished, we have completed 1/4 of the game. Now we have the racing levels, collecting levels, and dragon boss battle levels. Let's start with the infamous Wizard Grand Prix, or whatever. On second thought, let's move over to the collecting levels. The collecting levels consist of you flying around and collecting these magic books that escaped. That's it. There's only one map in the entire game, and they just keep adding more books to collect in each level. What annoys me is that the books move in ways the player can't because of the very imprecise nunchuck controls. You'll be right behind one, and it'll turn at an angle way tighter than you can, and you'll have no idea where it went. But the book levels are definitely the easiest out of the bunch, that's for sure. The dragon levels though? So basically, a dragon has invaded Pepsi Hogwarts, and it's up to us to stop it. Just like the book levels, all of the dragon levels are basically the exact same. The dragon flies around and does absolutely nothing. It's just a giant sponge for your magic spells. Just wait for the reticle to appear and swing the Wii remote to send out the magic spells that target the dragon's weak points. Except that they don't work half the time and just fly off in random directions, but sometimes the spell will just come back around 5 seconds later and hit the dragon. There is no consistency. Chasing the dragon is even more difficult than collecting the books. Again, it moves in ways you just can't, so it's more effective to just figure out its flight pattern and wait around for it to show up. The later levels add more dragons, which doesn't add to the difficulty, but instead the tedium. And now, the racing levels. After my first few tries, I was honestly considering not finishing these ones. But I went back after beating the rest of the game and after I had figured out how the acceleration worked. And guess what? I found the winning strategy. At the start of the race, go as fast as possible to get in front of the other racers. After that, slow down to like half speed and just take your time. All of the other racers follow in the same path and basically form a conga line. And I can guarantee you will never be hit by one of their spells because they don't work. After that, the only thing you really need to worry about is maneuvering the broom, which, again, it sucks. And sometimes the placement of the rings are a bit awkward and you don't know where to go. But as long as you don't mess up too bad, taking it nice and steady makes the dreaded Wizard Grand Prix a breeze. Billy the Wizard is defined by its horrid controls. I think out of all of the games on this list, Billy the Wizard is by far the most difficult to handle. The nunchuck motion controls are so unintuitive, and there is no reason to play past the first stage of each game mode because every challenge is the exact same. I mean, there's no reason to play Billy the Wizard in the first place, but you get the idea. The first red flag I noticed was, well, this. The second red flag was that Mythmaker's Orbs of Doom didn't even rip off a good Super Monkey Ball game. Level design wise, Orbs of Doom is way more evocative of Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz than the only two good ones. Instead of having that simple, concise, arcadey feel of the first two Super Monkey Ball games, the level design in Orbs of Doom forces you to be a lot slower and a lot more careful. So based on the box art, I was half expecting there to be some kind of story in this game. There's this warlock dude who I assume is the person who trapped the Mythmakers in the Orbs of Doom, but this guy is nowhere to be seen in the final game. Maybe I was expecting a little too much for a data design game? Maybe? Anyway, we have 30 levels this time around, although I could have sworn the back of the box said there were 40 levels? Yeah, what the hell? Those hack frauds lied to me. You know what though, this might be a blessing in disguise. Orbs of Doom is basically jittery monkey ball. It's like the game is in a constant state of muscle spasms. And of course, it uses motion controls. Is there something on my foot? No, nothing. And of course, it uses motion controls. Oh, there is something on my foot. There's an ant. But luckily not the nunchuck this time. I don't think it's as hard to play as Billy the Wizard, but it's definitely pretty close. So I think the best way to cover this game would be to talk about some of the more frustrating levels. The levels in this game are either really easy and boring, or an absolute nightmare. So without further ado, let's begin with Turntable. So this level has a giant spinning platform in the center, and oh my god, the camera is so bad. Also, this chick texture, it's just the one they use for the background, but it's super stretched out. The goal of this level is to knock over a bridge to access the next platform, and this process is repeated twice. This doesn't feel like the kind of level that belongs in a monkey ball styled game like this. It's incredibly slow, and the level design does not complement the admittedly janky momentum-based gameplay. But what really killed this level for me was the large gap between the first and second platform. I was taking it slow because of how difficult the game is to handle, and I got stuck in the gap with no means of escape without dying and restarting the entire level. They couldn't have extended that bridge a little bit? I became so infuriated with this level and how tedious it was that I had to come back to it later. Total deaths? 9. Corkscrew. There's this giant rotating spiral and the camera is terrible. It's incredibly difficult to stand still. I kinda like the part after the corkscrew where you roll on a path that goes through it, but other than that, this level is painfully slow. Total deaths? 1. Drum. The Vor level. Great. So there's this cylindrical platform with maze-like walls. The platform spins and you need to navigate to the end of the level without falling off. Some of the paths you can take don't lead anywhere and just waste your time, which you don't have much of, since if you get stuck, you'll just end up rolling right off the platform. You're forced to be very patient and wait for the spin. Total deaths? 6. Kicker. There's a big spinning arm that launches you up a steep hill that curves at the top, and it's really hard to adjust your angle after being launched. After that, there's a really steep hill that you can't see over that immediately banks to the right, which is cool. I didn't write the amount of times I died on this one, so I need to go back and look at the footage, and I really don't want to, and there's a motorcycle driving by. That's cool. Total deaths? 7. Gauntlet. This one kind of reminds me of some of the old Monkey Ball levels where there's just a bunch of moving crap trying to knock you off, but with that trademarked data design jankiness. Total deaths? 6. 4-way ramp. This stage is weird because there's a ton of backtracking, which is odd because a Monkey Ball style game should not have backtracking. Shifting the seesaws using your weight opens a path to the next seesaw, but doing so also brings you back to the start of the stage. So you need to keep shifting these seesaws, which requires you to go around the stage a total of 4 times. Total deaths? 8. Multi-story maze. It's a big maze. This is the only level that I was able to sequence break. You can fall off a wooden ramp onto another ramp, which skips a large chunk of this slow and boring level. I had actually reached the end of the level and fell down the hole that led to the end gate, and on the way down, I hit a wall that instantly knocked me off the final platform. platform. There was nothing I could do about it. And then I made it back to the same hole and the same thing happened. Total deaths, 6. Turning spiral. That spiral is a pain to climb since the platform is constantly spinning under you. But once you make it past the spiral, there are these two moving platforms and you need to fall off one and land on the other. Both platforms are moving pretty fast and the terrible camera severely restricts your ability to see where the second platform is. I quit this level and went back later. Total deaths, 9. 4 tests. Something is wrong with how the bridges and platforms are connected, making you pop up when rolling at high speeds. You can use this to your advantage and skip over some of the tests. Total deaths, 6. Down up path. This level tests your ability to successfully fight the controls. All of the paths and bridges are narrow and jutting out at weird angles. You must be as precise as this game will let you be. Total deaths, 4. Rock box. Oh my god. This first turn is abysmal. Why is it at an angle? It just knocks you off. I swear to god, guys, I died 30 times before making it past the first turn. I was so on edge after that because I knew if I screwed up, I would need to make that turn again. But luckily the rest of the level isn't that much of a problem. Wait a minute, guys. Guys, we need to switch the seesaw so we can fall down onto that end platform. We need to go through the entire level again. Oh, whoops. So yeah, in order to complete this level, we need to make that first turn twice without dying. And to remind you, it took me 30 tries to do it once. Even so, I managed to complete this level 6 deaths later, somehow, racking up a grand total of 36 deaths. Thank god it's over. And that's it. I never need to willingly play Jittery Monkey Ball again. Moving on. Mythmaker's Super Kart GP is a masterclass of terrible. That story I told at the start of the video was real, by the way. This is the same copy of Mythmaker's Super Kart GP all these years later. I'm 21 now, by the way. I have a personal vendetta against this game, and even pushing my pre-established bias aside, this is legitimately the worst game I have ever played. Mythmaker's Super Kart GP is the only game in this video I did not 100% complete. But throughout the entirety of my roughly 2.5 hours of playtime, I was 100% suffering. Just listen to the engine noise. It sounds like a swarm of wasps. And this goes on the entire game. Like, just listen to this. Wait, what did she say? So the first thing you'll notice is... The second thing you'll notice is that the starting roster is incredibly unbalanced. There is no reason not to pick Trixie from the start. Her stats are just straight up better than everyone else's. So yeah, if you've played Mario Kart, you know what to expect here. 3 different speeds, 3 different difficulties. There are 5 cups containing 4 courses each. However, there are only 5 unique courses in the game. Super Kart GP constantly reuses the same courses and just alters the time of day, or has you drive through the course backwards. It's real lazy. I mean, it's data design, what do you expect? And then the courses themselves are either meh or just bad. The Easter and Tooth Fairy courses are just pretty basic and generally pretty simple. The other 3 courses though are downright terrible. The Mansion course has a ton of alternate paths that are just slower than the main one. What's the point? Also, during the night variation of this course, there are cones trying to direct you to a side path, but all of the CPUs just drive right through them. They don't care. The Christmas course has a few sharp turns that are pretty difficult to pull off. This one in particular is, yeah, but the Halloween course is something else. There is this one turn after the spiral bridge that's very difficult to make due to a speed boost in the middle of the track that sends you flying off the turn. Like, I think I maybe successfully made that turn once. I usually just ended up flying right off of it. Yeah. Just like Billy the Wizard, all of the CPUs follow the same path throughout the race and end up forming a conga line. All of the CPUs just crowd together, so you're either in first or in last. The AI is also real bad, but I think a lot of this has to do with the jankiness of the game. The level geometry will sometimes launch you way off the course, or you'll clip through it, or you'll get launched and clip through a wall and land on another part of the course. Sometimes you'll hit nothing and then zoom right off. Hitting anything in this game sends you skyrocketing, and your position will be resetting constantly. The traffic cones are also super jank. Sometimes you'll drive right through one of them without any issues. Sometimes you'll do a sick flip. Sometimes they'll just clip into the ground. I don't know whether to blame the programmers or the playtesters for this. Either way, they both hold some responsibility. As for items, there's like 5 of them. Each has a Mario Kart counterpart, so they're really not special. And going back to the level geometry for a second, the targeting arrows will sometimes hit the course instead of you, so you really don't need to worry too much about being hit. The item boxes are also scattered all around the map, and some are placed in really unfair locations, like this one right in front of me at the start of the race. The only interesting thing Super Kart GP does is item stacking. If you grab an item, the next item box you get will increase the power of your current item. And you can do this twice for a ×3 effect on your item. Shoot 3 arrows, make your shield last longer, drop 3 pumpkins. You can either use your item right when you get it or save it to increase its potency. It's unfortunate that most of the items suck and are absolutely pointless. However, each character has an unlockable special ability. To get this ability, you must complete the character's first time trial mission, and my god, these powers are broken. I didn't unlock all of them, but the ones I do have are actually kind of insane. The snowman can freeze all racers in front of him for a few seconds. I don't know how long it is, but it's a pretty decent amount of time. The cat has a clover that, from my understanding, is a permanent shield. It just lasts the entire race. Trixie can literally instantly warp to a different part of the course. This one's the most broken because it lets you play less of the game. But sometimes it does warp you right into a wall or off a cliff. So there's that. In concept, it's the most busted. Game balance was definitely not taken into consideration here. To use these abilities during a race, you either need to collect a golden item box or collect a certain amount of silver stars. The golden item boxes are weird though, because sometimes they respawn and sometimes they don't. I don't know why that is, but it happens. And in one of the races, there's a golden item box that's just way too high to reach. And then there's the silver stars, which are placed in really bizarre spots. Most of them are either completely off of the course or directly in front of a wall. Same thing with the gold stars too. These ones count towards unlocking characters, but it doesn't help when they're placed on a wall. Oh wait, I don't think I mentioned this game uses motion controls, but I'm willing to bet you knew that just by looking at it. And yeah, they're unresponsive. It's hard to turn. There's no drifting. Feels like you're driving through molasses. 50cc is manageable, but anything above that in the game becomes unwieldy. You feel like a pinball. You can't play. It's bad. It's so bad. Mythmaker's Super Kart GP doesn't work. It reuses a ton of content that wasn't even good to begin with. Its controls are frustrating, the collision detection is infuriating, the courses are poorly designed, the engine noises are unbearable, but most importantly, Mythmaker's Super Kart GP ruined my 9th birthday, and for that, I will never forgive it. Alright, so now it's time to unveil the final ranking for these wonderful games. So without further ado, here it is. Like I said before, Ninjabread Man is the best game out of these 4. And that's mainly because Ninjabread Man is fairly easy to control. I actually felt like I had control of my character in this game. And the same can't be said for the other games on this list. Next up in the frustratingly terrible tier are Billy the Wizard and Mythmaker's Orbs of Doom. Now, this list is fully ordered, so the game furthest to the left is worse than the one on the right. So, Orbs of Doom is the second best game of the night. all things considering. Orbs of Doom probably had the most variety out of all the games on the list. Each level had a unique design, and while they weren't good, they were different from one another. Still really difficult to control, but not as finicky as Billy the Wizard. If Catholics were calling Harry Potter demonic, then Billy the Wizard is downright satanic. The nunchuck barely works, all of the challenges are the same. I hated it. I genuinely hated it. But at the top, we have Mythmaker's Super Kart GP. This game is almost unplayable, but at the same time, I enjoyed playing this game the most because of how broken it is. Seeing how far I could fly when hitting walls or other random objects was genuinely hilarious. I watched through the entirety of the 2.5 hours of footage I got just so I could include the very best clips in this video. If there's one game I covered today that you need to play, it's this one. I was actually in awe at some of the things that happened in this game. My mouth was agape. It's that bad. The Wii is a pitiful console. There are some genuinely great games on the system, but it didn't deserve this. Today I covered 4 of the worst games the Wii has to offer, but don't think I'm stopping here. Not only are there many more dated design games to suffer through, there's an expansive sea of trash as far as the eye can see. We're in uncharted territory now, but I think for the sake of my own mental health, it would be a good idea to cover a game I actually like in my next video. So tune in next time where I share my thoughts on one of my favorite games of all time, Katamari Damacy. Anyway, I'm out. See ya.
Next time on Worst of the Wii.
Approaching sound barrier!